Everyone, this is Laerun with Fantasy Grounds Academy, and I am here with special guest Zero. He is also a Discord community member and a Fantasy Grounds Unity user. He is going to show us how he came across these open AI ChatGPT AI for using it for a tool to essentially create content for Fantasy Grounds. He's got a few examples that he was going to show us on how this works and how you can use the ChatGPT AI from OpenAI to generate content. In this case, we're going to be working with NPC first, and then we'll go from there. How are you doing today, Zero?
I'm doing all right. I will tell people what ChatGPT is. It's basically a learned AI. They took all the data from the internet from till 2021, and they stuffed it all in one AI learning machine, and it can literally look anything that is created before those times. It knows everything that has been created by anyone on the internet, and you can basically make it learn while you play with it. And this is super handy to create, for example, NPCs or content, because the struggle I had while making my entire D&D world was creating NPCs. And there are a lot of tools you can use. For example, I have here a random NPC generator. If I go to clipboard, I have a random NPC. I put it in here. I have a lot of data. But the issue now I will get is if I use this to go into my NPC and create an NPC basically from import text.
Yeah, we can't see your table. There you go. Yep, there you can see it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll go back to show you. If you go to NPCs here and then go to here and you import the text, it is wrong. Like it doesn't even add the dexterity, strength, and etc. And if I wanted to make like a bunch of characters for my players to interact with that have actual HP and actual can do things, this will be a lot of time consuming things to do. So I was like, oh, can this AI basically do this? And I went back to the AI and I was like, create me a random NPC.
So go ahead and switch over to your browser, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I at my browser right now. Can you see that?
Yep.
And I will tell him, because AI in a way is stupid, that it will literally do anything you want, but nothing more, nothing less. It will look for your perimeters that you set. So in this specific case, I wanted to use the rule set D&D 5e. So I will tell it, create an NPC using these rule sets. And it knows, since it's been created before 2021, it knows the rule sets. If you're not sure if it knows anything, you can always ask it, hey, do you know this? And if it doesn't know, you can basically implement it and learn it itself, because it will remember your conversation. And this is a fun way to get an appearance, personality, but it's not what we're looking for. We're looking for basically an actual template for maybe an adventurer that can join or something similar. You can use this to create personalities and background, of course. See, it creates a level 8 paladin. It has some skills, but it is not like what we're looking for. So you expand your perimeters by telling it, what do I want? And this is where I made a template for Fantasy Grounds, and this is the basic template it used. So I will implement this and tell it, hey, this is a template. So now it will know, hey, this is an example of how they want it, basically. I am. Okay, so I will tell ChatGPT, hey, this is a template, and it will remember that this is basically how you want it. So your parameters are set of, this is what I need to do. Then I want to use this system to make a character. So I ask him, can you make a character using the D&D 5e rules? It can use any rule set you want. It knows all the rule set. And you see, he really puts his appearance in, and he starts to struggle with the entire concept of how you want to do it, right? So this is where you need a little bit of patience with ChatGPT, and you need to make it learn. Basically, it doesn't understand what you want, right? I don't change anything to it. So I will reapply this, and I'm using this exact method. Uh,
Yep.
So I will now tell it using this template in the
From above. So using this template in the exact same way of writing stats for everything. Yep.
Yeah, so I will exactly tell him, hey, this is what I need you to use, and not how you have been written.
Do you need the word random in there, or it automatically is okay?
Yeah. Again, he doesn't know how to exactly use it. Again, it requires a little bit of fiddling and patience, changing words or phrases so it knows exact what to do. So I will even dumb this down for it, and will tell it now, hey, this is still wrong, right? Do it in this way.
Okay.
X.
So, folks, if you're watching live, he's actually using the open AI chat GPT app, and he's basically setting up commands and parameters for the AI to create an NPC.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, it will do stuff you don't want, but again, it's like he doesn't know the meaning of certain, like, he knows the meaning of certain word, but it is an AI, and you need to tell, like coding, you need to tell exactly what you want. If you don't tell exactly what you want, then it will start going off, like here. Easy way is
All right. So he's just kind of showing us the struggles that you go through when you first start using it when you're not sure. Yep.
do I have?
So there are your templates.
So now I will do something else because it keeps repeating what it wants.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll start over. I will use this. I will tell it.
Define the template.
Yeah, I will define everything. I will be like,
Yeah, I see. So you're essentially setting it up.
Yeah, I'm basically setting up so you're like, okay, this is what he needs.
So while he's getting the text correct, we're using the Open AI chat GPT. This is a learning software app. What he's doing is defining the parameters so we can generate random NPCs that we can copy and paste and put into Fantasy Grounds format. So for the time being, we're working in the chat GPT.
Let's hope this works.
Okay.
Yeah. So I quickly started over. I think the bot really wanted to use the old one. So sometimes you need to start over a bit and be like, okay, unlearn everything what you have done. Because if you go in a new chat, it basically starts from what it had learned before, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, it doesn't define the name properly, and that is where it already struggles.
Yep. So now you got a random thing now.
Yeah, so I have a new character. I have some random. Well, this is exactly the same. So now I will tell them, I need.
Or rewrite it with.
Yeah, like rewrite it.
With random.
Modifiers and use the D&D 5e. Create a new character using this format.
Yep.
So now I will tell it, okay, so it creates a new character, name and everything. But the armor class, everything, hit points is still the same. And you slowly feed it information. My goal is to change this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do it. And it doesn't write in the same format.
Mm-hmm.
So we go a step backwards, but we can easily fix this by redoing this.
So essentially, we're going through the pain and the struggles that you might notice initially when you're first starting to use this type of AI technology. But eventually, you get to a point where it knows exactly what you're asking for.
So when I started this to write the template and everything,
Mm-hmm.
it took me already 2 hours to tell the template.
Yep.
And it will apologize and be like, okay, it doesn't change anything again.
Mm-hmm. I want you to try a new prompt when you're done with this one. Okay. So show them what asked it if it knows the NP or the proper monster or NPC format for D&D 5e.
Can
do you know the proper, or do you know the official D&D 5e stat block monster format or something like that? And it will, if you hit enter after you do that, it will actually spit out an example. And then from there, you can ask it to create a random NPC using those parameters, the same kind of prompt, and it will generate your NPC with the correct formatting. So yes, it knows the shorthand, but you want the longhand one. So what I would do is I would say create or generate a D&D 5e official monster stat block using the 5th edition rule set or something like that. And it will do it. It won't write it this way because this is defining that it understands what it is, but it's not actually generating the content that you want. But at least it knows it. So it knows the parameters already. It's probably memorized the SRD already. Can you create a D&D 5e, a random D&D 5e monster stat block using the D&D Beyond format or something like that? Use a stat block. So can you create a D&D 5e monster stat block?
Can you create a D&D stat
block based on the official or based on D&D 5 or D&D Beyond?
Can you create a D&D
format
5 stat block to create a random monster for my fantasy world?
Use
and then it will
and
it will start creating a random monster.
Yep.
So this is already great.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is not how you want it written down.
Right. This is one format. It might work if you use the parsing tool, because it can recognize D&D Beyond if you tell it to use the D&D Beyond format or Monsters of the Multiverse format.
So now, having created this, I'm like, can you write it down in my format that I've written down?
Mm-hmm.
So I will make it. I need to wait a little bit till it's done. And now he has created this in this way, and I tell it, use this format, right? And now it started to learn, hey, I can use this format. And here we see the benefits. Again, it took a little bit of time. So now we come to the second issue, is the format of traits and everything needs to be, first you need to define the name of it, then you need a dot on it, and then you need the text that is behind it, right?
Yeah.
You know, special abilities, multi-attacks, but it puts this thing in here, and you don't want it. So you're like, oh, can you rewrite it in the format name, and then a dot, and then
or you can ask it to substitute the colons with periods or something like that.
Yeah, but like I do it this way because I like it that way.
Yep.
So I will then define like, okay,
I see.
And then he now understands, okay. Oh, it doesn't do it properly. I wrote it wrong because I have to do this for special abilities and actions.
Mm-hmm.
So now I need to unlearn this, and I I need to unlearn this and tell it, oh, it's this is only for actions and
Traits.
Special abilities and traits. So now I told him, and this is like what you're like. Oh, I made a mistake. I need to go back a bit, but it still does this. So I need to. What I'm gonna do is just redo everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay.
I see. So while you're training that thing, this can take 5 minutes all the way up to a half an hour, depending on what you're trying to do. So I want to show the audience while you're working on training it. I want to show them some things that I was able to achieve with your help, of course. So essentially, while he's training his AI robot to give him the outcome he wants, I was able to ask the AI to create content based on input. So I gave it most of the Fantasy Grounds formatting. So I told it that this is a template, essentially, all this information. This is coming from the document that discusses, and I also gave that to you. It tells you how you want it spelled out. So this covers classes, races, and traits and such for a player character. So what I did is I gave it a prompt, and I said the information above is a template. Create a new random D&D 5e player character class based on the information above. And this is what it gave me. It gave me a shadow assassin with all of the parameters. So if I wanted to build this into a new class, I would have the building blocks for that class. So I'm going to regenerate this response, and hopefully it'll create something different. So I'm going to click on regenerate response. Oh, it won't do it. Let me try it again.
You can also just type in the last thing you have done.
Okay.
Like make a thing, and it will remember exactly.
Okay.
As you can see, he now done it because I asked to do it this for action. The best thing to learn it is give an example of how you want it written. So again, what I wrote down is this is what it would look like, and then I exactly done it with the multi-attack because he gave it multi-attack, and then the description behind it. I will be like, but the multi-attack has to be written like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the AI will know, okay, so I apply this for all the actions basically. But now I will do is now do the do this to the special abilities as well. Example. I will just and again, you only have to go through the struggle once. You just make an account. You keep this chat basically here in the top left. You keep it alive, like you keep it there. You then go to this chat if you want to create, and you can then like from there on, you can just rewrite a character using the format given, right? And then it will start rewriting. Again, it will take you half an hour. to make like one properly. Like here he does everything like how I want it to. So now he made an entire monster. Give it a second. Yeah. And now I go to Fantasy Grounds. Can you see Fantasy Grounds?
No, you gotta switch it. There you go. Yep.
And I will type this in. And now everything of your entire character is like written like this.
Yep.
And if I now basically I've learned everything what it needs to learn, I will tell it now. Now we're going into specifics, right? Because you don't want always a random thing. You want something with a theme or something with a flair to it, something you know you want. So this is where you can make things really quickly. So now I can make a random monster using this format. And then make the monster Underdark. Underdark theme. It has to be
D&D 5e. And Underdark is Forgotten Realms.
It knows Underdark as well.
Yep.
Like it knows the same. It's the same thing. Challenge rating 12 using the 5e rule set. And now it will just create an entire Underdark theme thing using this rule set. Again, It took half an hour to get it working, but now for the eternity of this website, I can now make monsters like this.
Yeah, what's nice is you didn't necessarily say Drow, but that's what it came up with, because it based it on Underdark. So your next one might be a Dwergar, unless you specifically tell it Drow. So I would repeat it. See if, once it's done writing, repeat it and see if it gives you the same result. It probably won't.
No, because if you rewrite it, you basically tell it, hey, I'm not satisfied with this thing you have created. Created something else.
So it stopped. Yep.
So, for example, it stops here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
or continue? Yep.
Writing from so sometimes it has a limited amount of characters it can put out.
Yeah.
And that is an issue. But like just tell it to continue and it will tell basically the last word or the last sentence you want rewritten and it will continue.
Yep.
This is the only he put semicolon everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it, so you basically tell it again.
And you can't regenerate the response from that. You have to regenerate it from the one above it. Because it'll just do that piece. That makes sense. I was able to make some pretty incredible things. You can use it for like a 5-room dungeon, for example. If you give it the theme and you give it like like room 1, area 1, that sort of thing, and then you define what you want, it will create a random story or for like a one-shot. Gives you the skeleton or the outline. It kind of works like the D&D 5e Story Template Pro, where you can generate content based off of parameters, but this is more random.
So
there it goes.
I wasn't satisfied with this. I'm like, hey, you need to rewrite it so the actions are written multi-attack, dot, and then the description. So it will does everything for me. You can literally just make it do something else. Meanwhile, and then just let it type out. See, I told it how to rewrite it. It rewrites everything. So if you're like not in the mood for rewriting all those dots and everything, it will do it for you.
That's good because it makes it so that you don't have to. You can substitute, or you, like you said, you redefine what you need to do. And here's the continuation. So sometimes it'll time out or it'll stop at a certain amount of characters. So you have to goad it or tell it to proceed.
And again, you can automate this with the spells as well. I like to just drag and drop them in. It's just as simple as automating everything. Again, it will take some time to do it, but you can make it automated so it will understand how to write spells. Here are the actions, and the actions are also written in the structure of how you want it. If it doesn't, for example, doesn't do that, like it tried just how to attack with a melee sword, basically, you literally go to any stat block of any character, you take their attack, basically, you drop it in here and give it as an example. You just give it examples, you just feed it examples, and then in the end you have something like this where it just starts creating everything. If you're like, this is very cool, but I need a history about it, around it. So you go, write me...
Rewrite with a history or something?
Write me history around this monster. And again, you can give it parameters like, I want to be this specific thing included, right? Maybe your monster was rescued from a circus or whatever. You can literally write, add in the story that it got rescued from a circus, and it will literally make sure it adds that into the story.
Yep. You can also add, if you have access to the text, you can add in the personality traits for each class or each background, and then it will define based off of those. So if you gave it, you trained it to the format that you want to write those tables for you to create those random results, it'll do it.
So I'm here in my fantasy grounds again. I wrote this down. I'm like, I want to...
You had a network error.
Yeah, sometimes if you alt-tab...
I see.
See, if you're like, if it broke, you just have to rewrite the prompt and it will just do it again, and it's completely fine. I like having this on my second screen, so it's always open, so it always writes. I can immediately see if something is wrong. For the sake of the video, here is... And then I'm like, I take this bit of history, plop it in there, I import the character. I'm like, okay, this is the character. And everything is done. It's like, I forgot... I forgot how to... Like, I didn't do the multi-attacks actions. I just plop this in. Always remove that, like, little space, and then bam, I have all the actions in here and everything. And as you can see, if I take
there's a saving throw.
And I can just weapon attack, and everything is automated. And everything is already done. So if you had a token, you can already roll with it, and you're entirely done with creating this. And if you go here, you have the entire history you can rewrite in the format you like, and then you have this.
Nice. So I made I made tables doing this too.
I can. Let me grab the tables. So you tell it. Again, I go to a new one because it's a bit. So I will tell it this is
Yeah, apologies to those that are watching because we're getting some kind of limitations. He's in Europe, so going to have this occasionally.
Are you in?
Yep.
Can you create
A random table or something. 10 results.
10 results for weather.
Mm-hmm.
And what it probably will do. Yeah, so now it does it. What happens sometimes is it will create a table that doesn't work in Fantasy Grounds.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to, again, give this as a format and tell it this is exactly how I want it written, nothing else.
That's actually perfect what it's doing right now.
Yeah, and I just copy in this into Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah, you got to remember that when you do this in Fantasy Grounds, go ahead and pop up Fantasy Grounds. When you're importing tables, you have to tell it like the parameters. So if you go to tables and you import, you want to go to delimited, which is the option, and then pipe is the separator, not comma.
Yeah.
If you use a comma, it'll break it up into more rows. So yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Now you have an entire table.
Yep.
Of 10 things, and you can just hold here.
Mm-hmm.
Completely automated. Completely done. Let me see if I can break it.
Okay. Make it do a table, an actual. It'll define the text like an actual table, a formatted table. So instead of writing it out like a list, it'll create an actual table based off the parameters.
I learned it how to do it properly and immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so that's just an item list, which will work. Yeah. But so, you can get a formatted table. You can say generate a 2-column formatted table or something like that, and it'll create that same list from above.
Ooh. Yeah, like this.
Yes. So you can do that, which would be helpful if you were going to write a PDF or something. This would be a good tool for that as well. Mm-hmm. So this format would work maybe if you did an inline table import in Fantasy Grounds, but you're still probably going to have to build it. But this is another way that it can help you, though, in other... And you can tell it to rewrite it in the list format now instead of the table format. So...
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
I think you just have to do this.
Like, yeah, you define it, though. It'll do it. There it is. It was going. Yeah, that's right. That's a list format.
Yeah, like this. Yeah. Say you want a role and then description. That's cool.
Yeah.
Here, role and description, but you prefer an extra, you just add like another one and you're like, make it a chance rating.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you give one example.
Yeah.
So I remove this. You're like, 2%. And then you're like, now.
Write another one.
Can you give me 20 options for
kind of neat. Is this thing, even if you spell words incorrectly, it'll still kind of know what you're saying?
Yeah, I have heavily dyslexia,
Uh-huh.
so this is a god blessing for me.
Yeah, I bet.
Like,
okay, so it weighed the table based on percentage. That's pretty cool. Yep.
yeah, and
Yep. Makes sense. So the first column is the number, the second column is a percentage, and then the third is the description. And you could ask it for theme stuff. So instead of just doing random stuff, you can say, I only want this for the desert, or I only want this for the Arctic. You know, you don't have to have it so random.
yeah, like, again, you just need to give it the parameters in what you want it.
Yeah.
Again, for the sake of the video, we just make it easy in full random. But yeah, if I type, I want it fully for desert that lays very far inland. Like, I don't give it the format again. It knows the format already.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, here is it now exactly the same thing, but in a different way, like how you want it.
Yeah, that's really cool. You can also tell it, when it's done with this result, you can tell it to write this in Fantasy Grounds XML format, and it'll actually write the code for it. So you could say, please write Fantasy Grounds Unity XML format code for the table above. And it'll convert that table into code that you can insert into a project that you're working on if you're a developer, or maybe you're writing a, what do you call it, an extension. It can help you with coding a little bit too. Like maybe, like you were giving me an example that somebody wrote the code wrong and you asked it to straighten the code out. Well, it can do that. Like if you accidentally make a mistake. Yeah, so there's the code right there. Yep. So this would be helpful if you were going to, you know, build content in the back end of Fantasy Grounds. If you're like programming or, you know, like I said, making extensions, this would help with that. It is kind of tedious, but it does the trick. It knows, you know, how to format it in XML format. So you don't even have to be a programmer necessarily, but you do have to know where to insert this within your content. So you kind of have to know the structure and the layout. But this would help with writing it into a code format. And then it allows you to copy the code straight from the data that's being generated. So it does a lot of really interesting things. Like once it starts training to do code, then you can have a whole thread just based on code. And that way it doesn't get mixed in. So on the left of the screen where his interface is, he's got the D10 table, so you'd probably leave that just for making certain types of tables. And then the other rows might be for, or the other options might be for different kinds of data. So you create a new chat for different types of content that you want to generate. I mean, you could do it all in one, but I think it's better if you kind of compartmentalize it.
So here is a quick example for my friend. This code didn't work properly.
Mm-hmm.
But so this code was like written by my friend, and it was like, did I have everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like wait, I think, let me quickly copy paste.
Yep. So it can do a lot of other things besides Fantasy Grounds.
So my friend made this code working, but she struggled to put this all together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically you have a deck and you want to shuffle the deck into a random order, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And again, she was stuck on it, and I was like, "Oh, can you just fix this?" And I now put it in, and then this AI just fix so it works. And if you put this into your browser, basically, then you can basically see that it works.
Yep.
And if you don't understand something in code, you can be like,
what is this?
understand this part, right? What is the meaning of this?
Yep.
And it will tell you exactly what you don't know.
Yes.
So you can analyze and everything as well.
Yeah, so this would help you write websites and all kind like HTML code for websites and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, for fantasy grounds. Like if you have written code yourself or a plugin or anything, and something is off, you can just literally just paste it in here and be like, go figure it out. And the AI will just make everything work.
Yep, as long as it has a little bit of context, it'll do it. I mean, it's not going to read your mind. You have to actually give it context. In this case, it has context. It knows that it's a deck of cards.
Yeah, because he can read the code as well. But I mean, it also cannot do things that have not been done before, right? So people have written code before for this kind of thing, right? Yeah. So it will look up what have people done, what worked, and then he inserted. So if you want to do something that has never been invented before, it can do that because it doesn't know.
Yeah, you'd have to combine different elements to get your own thing and, get lucky. That's really cool. I wanted to I think we should call it a stream. We got, we're almost an hour into it. So is there anything else you wanted to mention while you're here?
Yeah, it's just like you can literally make it entire history or prompts or anything for D&D related. Like you just ask it, hey, can you create this? And it will.
Yeah, I've asked it questions, and it gives me the best answer it can based off of what it was fed. I've asked it some strange questions. I've asked it about all kinds of things about the universe and everything, and it's given me some pretty interesting information. So it's good for research too.
Yeah.
So that
if you're stuck on a role, right? And you don't want to research for very long because you're in the middle of a session, but it's quite important. You can just feed it to this AI and it will spit out anything it knows from all the books that have been released since 2021, basically. Yeah,
I asked it to write the D&D 5e monster bonus proficiency table, and it was able to do the whole table.
Yeah.
Like how you get proficiency bonuses. It actually wrote the whole table for me without me having to give it a whole. I just asked it to do that, and it did it.
Yeah, one important flop thing to tell you, if you're like, oh, I wanted to give it different stats, right? I want strength to be 18.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, instead of just telling you make strength 18, tell it also to update every modifier and everything.
Yeah.
Because else it will just literally only do that.
Okay.
So keep in mind that you always need to and update everything else, basically. You fill that in on the bottom because else it literally will just do what you ask and nothing more.
Yeah. I noticed that, remember I was telling you that it didn't update the armor class? That's because I didn't tell it to. But once I told it to put in all of the adjustments in for the armor class based off the dexterity, it did it. I didn't have to change anything manually. It just rewrote it with the correct, with all the corrections.
Yeah, again, you need to. It's like a toddler that will do anything you say, but only that.
And nothing more or nothing less. Makes sense. All right. Well, I want to thank you for introducing me to this. I was going to do a show by myself, but I thought, I want the person who actually introduced me to. I saw this on Reddit, so I went on Reddit. I read this information. I got a hold of this guy, Zero, and we planned on doing this show for the community. Apologies if it wasn't exactly what you need, but it gives you an idea of what can be done with the chat GPT, and also maybe inspire you to create content with it, because it does a really good job. If you can feed it the correct parameters and the prompts, and you got the spelling and all that right, it really helps. And then it learns all of these things, and then it just gets better and better over time. It's just that the first time you use it, it's a little clunky, but then once you understand its limitations and what you can do with it, it's really, really phenomenal. I've already done quite a bit of stuff in just overnight, essentially. And I want to thank you for joining me. And I put the description of this content that we're using with all the links. I also put Zero's original video in that description, so if you want to watch that, because it's a little bit more concise. It's hard to do this live and then think about it, and then, like you said, he's a little bit dyslexic, and then English is probably not your first language either. So that doesn't help either. So with all those things, though, you did really well, and the AI is really helpful for you in this case.
Fun fact, they can also do it in my language.
Nice. That is great. So you speak Dutch, or is it?
Yeah, I speak Dutch, a little bit of German, but
French.
No, I don't. Like, that's a really hard language.
Mm-hmm.
French doesn't make sense, and as a dyslexic person, it's even worse.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for showing up, and I'm going to do another one of these later on once I get more familiar with it. I'm going to actually break down some good examples and put it out there, and maybe I'll do a video where I just record it, and then I can edit it, and then I can release it, so it's not a live recording, kind of like what you did before with your video. You kind of just recorded it and uploaded it, but this is live. It's kind of hard to do it while you're talking and typing and everything. So anyways,
and then thinking the parameters.
Exactly. You need a little bit of time to kind of digest what you're doing as you go. So anyways, everyone, thanks for joining. If you were watching, leave some comments in the chat. Again, apologies if it's kind of convoluted and not exactly what you're looking for, but you can kind of see some of the content and how you can use it in your role-playing games and in virtual tabletops. Doesn't necessarily have to be Fantasy Grounds, but in this case, we are discussing Fantasy Grounds, so definitely we'll be using it in there. But anyways, thank you. You have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you around in the community.
Yeah, sure.